Hello, hello, hello. How is it going, everybody? Andrew here, and it is that time for the weekly Dev Diary. Uh, I'm Andrew. This is Let's Go Gaming, and welcome. This is the time of the week where I go over what I've done this week in my video game adventures and kind of how things are going. So something a little bit different. This time, instead of just schlepping on about some of the stuff I'd done, I figured I would play a little bit of X PITT as I do this. This is a great new indie game that does a lot of wonderful things. One of them is this lovely little harvest mechanic where you're using the same principles of the game in another mini game that is very fun. A single developer, and it has me thinking about our own game, what we're making, what we need, where we're going. Currently, still working on the same things we were last time. Just found out Dayton got his portion of the stuff done, so we're going to be checking that out in our next meeting and just kind of working through all of those different things on what the next step is. Our goal is still trying drastically to get to a probably a bad idea to play ball pit. We're trying drastically to get to a point that we can actually iterate, get in front of people, and start to get feedback on what it is that we're doing. So we're quickly on the way there. It's crazy. Before this, when people said that, they were like building the game, they didn't know where it was going, I thought that was insane. But now I get it. I 100% get how you can build a game without knowing where you're going, because you have an idea, and as you're designing it, you realize that the specifics of the idea didn't fit within the design frame. So you have to adjust and make changes that things fit. Just shoehorning in a narrative into a Balatro-like changes the design of that game fundamentally, because it is intentionally set up to not have a narrative. The seamlessness of play of that game works because there is no narrative getting in the way of that quick hit of dopamine as you quickly go from blind to blind to blind, from decision to decision to decision. And so by changing and just saying we're going to do a Balatro-like with narrative, fundamentally we have to make changes to the structure so that we can try to do something similar where we have a seamless presentation of story that doesn't impede the overall speed of the gameplay of that decision space, so that that story beat acts as the right force for the vector that we're trying to put the player on, as far as like, are we ramping things up, slowing things down, is this more of a rest area? And so figuring out how to do that is going to be tough. Things the guys are doing is Jim said he's gonna write up a narrative in one section. I made a little template that we can use to help us try to all write little narratives to fill in a dynamic story structure so that the player's choices have meaning. Because if we add story to a Balatro-like, and it's all about this decision space of making the number go up and using your tools at your disposal, your jokers or whatever you have, to do that. Part of that dopamine hit is knowing that you're the one who turned that wheel. You made the decision to put this in instead of that, to burn this, to change this. Those were your decisions, not dev decisions. The dev gave you the tools for that. And so having that set up with a narrative means that, my feeling is that those same tools should do something similar to that narrative. And as an example, I look at Hades and the way that they have so much interaction, where as you come back, you feel like you're living in this world. As you repeat this game over and over again, there is this feedback narratively that becomes a draw. Like, oh, what are they going to say this time? You want to check and make sure you don't miss anything as you go through that game. Something like that, but much smaller, much smaller. And then once we write those narratives and we get those out, can we tell that story without words, or with the least amount of words possible? We want to show, not tell, more so than anything. And that's going to be another challenge, is how do we present this to the player in a way that feels good? Do we just put a little cutscene in before each dice rolling phase? Should we have something in the pre-dice rolling phase that's like narratively engaging? Do we have cutscenes at certain points that tell the story? Is there a narrator? Is this told from your point of view or their point of view? There are so many interesting questions and decisions that are made in figuring out how those different things work that I now understand why you can build the plane as you're flying it. And I mean, this week we've been pretty much doing that. It's what we've been doing since kind of the beginning of this project, DBP project version 3, because that's what my repo says, because that's the amount of times we've had to redo it. But when I look at this project, that's what I see, is us having a clear idea of what you're like with dice and a narrative, and then quickly realizing that that addition of narrative fundamentally changes the game we're making. So everything kind of has to change and be justified as you include this element into the structure. Even just changing it from poker to Yahtzee and using dice is enough of a shift that you kind of have to solve some very simple questions like, what are the jokers? How do these things interact? When you're rolling, what are you rolling? Is it a physics-based system, or is it a RNG, computer based, where you're just like, computer comes up with numbers that you display? How many dice are you rolling? How many dice can you get to roll? Can you get more dice? So all those questions about a small change will fundamentally change what our game is. And then adding narrative, which is a ginormous change, means that if you were to show me what we currently have as an idea, or what I'm currently conceiving as the idea of the game when we first started, I would probably say you probably should remove that narrative part, because you're adding a lot to it. That is one thing I am a little worried about, is that trying to get a satisfying, dynamic narrative built in so that when you do something with these heroes in the game, there's a little bit of story about them. You learn a little bit about them. They are people and creatures that you can associate with, have the story be about, and not just be a game about number go up. So in my mind now, there's two games that need to be played. One about number go up, and one about story go good. What track are you on the story? So yeah, that's been the week. That's kind of where I've been. That and playing Ball Pit, which a phenomenal game, as I said. And the reason why it's so phenomenal, solo dev, but the attention to detail. It's like a very simple, basic, it's a breakout clone. We've played this game before. Like, there's nothing new here. This isn't rocket science. We've played these games since, God, this is my dad's, like, he had a Gateway. I'm pretty sure we had Breakout on there. It's like, oh yeah, I know these games. I've played these games. There's nothing new here. But it's so fun because the added element of roguelike, of this decision space of pick your balls and then use that to get better power, that little mini game to increase your permanent rewards, I think is just such a smart design decision, because you're reinforcing the primary mechanic of the game, bouncing balls. Like, because that's the primary mechanic, it's it's not just when we get this Joker, let me get this card, let me upgrade this. There is something more to it, something that makes it just, I don't know, hit differently. I find that really, really intriguing because we had talked about doing something similar. So, that's me. I'm going to get back to some ball pit, y'all. So go out, play some games. Thank you for joining me. I'm Andrew. This is Cat Skull Gaming. And hopefully you're playing some good games and having a good time. Talk to you later. Bye.